Hello children, Patanjali Rishikul, class 10. I welcome you all to this video. In our previous video, we discussed about the main parts of a flower. Today, we will learn about the process of pollination. Now children, what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a stamen to the stigma of a carpel. This is known as pollination. Now, what are the various types of pollination? Pollination can occur in two ways, or you can say there are two types of pollination. First is self-pollination and the other one cross-pollination. What is self-pollination? When the pollen grains from the anther of a flower, they are transferred to the stigma of the same flower and at times another flower of the same plant. Then this type of pollination is called self-pollination. Next is cross-pollination. What is cross-pollination? When the pollen grains from the anther of a flower on one plant are transferred to the stigma of another similar type of plant. It is called as cross-pollination. Okay? Now, how do the insects help in cross-pollination? The insects, like for example, you can see in this picture, the bee, which sit on different flowers. Why do they sit on different flowers? In order to suck the nectar. They help in pollination by transferring the pollen from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. This is how cross-pollination is carried out by insects. Apart from this, the blowing wind also carries pollen grain from one flower to another flower and helps in this process of cross-pollination. Next, we move ahead to fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is actually the fusion of the male and the female gametes. The process of fertilization occurs when the male gamete present in pollen grain joins or fuses with the female gamete or egg that is present in ovule. This is fertilization. When a pollen grain falls on the stigma of a carpel, it bursts open and grows a pollen tube. And this pollen tube moves towards the downward direction through the style towards the female gamete that is in the ovary. And a male gamete moves down the pollen tube. Now, the pollen tube enters the ovule in the ovary. The tip of the pollen tube, it bursts open and the male gamete comes out of the pollen tube. In the ovary, the male gamete of pollen combines with the nucleus of female gamete or egg present in the ovule to form the fertilized egg. And children, this fertilized egg is called as zygote. So, after the formation of zygote, the process of fertilization is complete. Right? Next is the formation of fruits and seeds. The fertilized egg that is known as zygote, it divides several times to form an embryo within the ovule. And this ovule develops a tough coat around it and gradually it gets converted into a seed. And this seed, what does it contain? It contains the baby plant. All the eggs that are present in the ovules, they get fertilized and grow to become seeds. And finally, the ovary of a flower, it becomes a fruit. What does it bear? It bears the seeds inside it. The other part of the flowers that are left, like for example, the sepals, petals, stamens, stigma and style, they all dry up and fall off. The fruit bears the seed and it protects the seed. Now, the fruit contains seeds of the plant inside it. What is a seed? A seed is actually the reproductive unit of a plant, which can be used to grow into a new plant. The seed, it contains a small baby plant, or you can say a young baby plant or embryo, and the food for this baby plant is also contained within the seed. The part of the baby plant in seed which develops into shoot with leaves, that part is known as plumule, and the part which develops into root, it is called as radicle. The part of the seed which contains the stored food for the baby plant, that part is known as a cotyledon, right? The wheat grains, like for example, corn, peas, wheat, beans, etc. What are all these? They are actually the seeds. The baby plant present inside a seed, they are in an inactive stage. Okay? This inactive stage is known as dormant state. When the seed gets suitable conditions, right environment, or you can say favorable condition, like water, air, warmth, etc., it starts germinating. And when it germinates, then a new baby plant grows out of the seed. So in this way, the parent plant reproduces more plants like itself by forming seeds through flowers. So children, this was how the process of sexual reproduction in plants takes place. I hope you have understood the process of sexual reproduction in plants. We'll meet again in our next video. Till then, take good care of yourself. Bye.